You're listening to The Cool Files. What the hell is this? Let's get into it. It's The Cool Files. Get a crazy intro music on this. You guys are going to like this. This is The Cool Files. Now, I'm having to record this off the cuff, and I'm going to have to explain a lot of stuff. I'm going to have to unload on the listener, the patrons, and everybody out there, because this podcast is for you. Cheers to you for listening, for keeping up with. First of all, I just want to say thanks to the patrons. Okay, that's where it all begins. It begins and ends with you, the listener. So thanks for listening. Thanks for putting up with all of this crazy stuff going on. As you know, we were out the week before last, and you know that I love doing the show. I'd never not do it. I always want to do it. So when I didn't do the podcast, you were probably wondering, what the hell is going on? What the heck is going on? And I was thinking the same thing. So let me just start from the beginning, and let me just explain what the Cool Files is. Well, the Cool Files is going to be a little bit of bonus stuff we're going to do here and there to try to explain what's really going on behind the scenes. Now, as you know, on the last episode we did, whatever episode that was, episode number 51, we were, how should I put this? We were shadow banned by Podnut Media. And I never thought this would happen to me. I thought, I would always be free to say whatever I want. It's a free country. Say whatever I want. But now Podnut Media appears to be shadow banning me, censoring me with things that I say, and frankly, I understand why. I understand why it's happening, and I have got some explaining to do to the patrons. As this has been driving me nuts. It's been driving me up the wall to have to keep some of this stuff secret from the patrons. That's the last thing I want to do, okay? So where do we even begin with this stuff? Well, as you know, the last episode been shadow banned, censored for some of the stuff we were saying. And I also mentioned toward the beginning of the episode, I believe, if you listen to that, on that episode, I was talking about how I had to do this, what was I calling it? The re-education program from Podnut Media. So you're probably wondering what that was. There wasn't a whole lot I could say. There wasn't a lot I could say about this because of the whole shadow banning thing, the censoring that I knew was going to happen, but I had to test it out to make sure. And I hope I don't sound like a guy that wears tinfoil for a hat. I hope that's not how I'm coming off right now, because this is all true. This is all real stuff that's happening. So let's rewind. Okay, let me just calm down. I'm getting really jacked up. This is gonna be weird stuff. So let me just start with getting a rewind sound, because I have to rewind. My VCR rewinding. Let's rewind. That doesn't sound like a rewind either. Let's rewind, and let me talk about this Podnut Media re-education program. What was that all about? Well, so I got this message from one of the people that I deal with over at Podnut Media, saying that some of the content that I was putting out there was not appropriate, and that there were a whole list of things that I wasn't doing right, that the sound drops weren't going right, that I had told them I was going to get a cool guest on the show. That didn't ever happen. I got a couple guests, and then didn't quite deliver on what I'd promised, which, hey, that's on me. But anyway, there were several strikes against me, pretty much. And I know podcasting is hard, and that I want to please everybody. I want to please the patrons. I want to please Podnut Media, but frankly, it's sometimes damn near impossible. But I do my best. So they sent me an email, said, hey, you're going to need to do some professional development. You're going to learn how to be a better podcaster. So I thought, that sounds great. I need to learn how to be a better podcaster.
That is crazy. Oh, my word.
That's crazy. That's why I'm here. That's why I signed up for Podnut Media, so that I could be a better podcaster. It's all for the patrons, and it's all for the name in the name of the pod. I just wanted to do better. So anyway, they sent me a link and said, here's the secure login for the education program, and they told me that it was going to take about 20 hours. So I said, well, I can't do the podcast this week. And they said, that's fine. So I went in, I logged into the podcast training app, and it all seemed pretty normal to me. You know, I've done this stuff, done online, just taken online classes, but it got kind of weird, if I'm being honest. This podcaster education program was a little bit strange, and I actually was able to record some of it on my phone. I had my phone, so they had the webcam. I didn't realize it was tracking me, so they told me to turn off the phone after this, but I was able to record a few seconds of it. So let's play this here so you can hear what happened. All right, let's do this, get this over with. Hopefully it won't take too long to do this Podnut Media thing, whatever the hell this is.
Greetings, podcaster. Welcome to the Podnut Media Podcaster Re-Education Beta Testing Program.
Alright.
Let us begin with the first lesson.
Okay.
Please state your name.
My name is Beowulf.
Please state the name of your podcast.
I host the Cool Podcast.
Repeat after me.
Alright.
I am a podcaster.
I am a podcaster.
I work for Podnut Media.
I work for Podnut Media, I think.
Christopher Schmidt is CEO of Podnut Media.
Christopher Schmidt is CEO of Podnut Media.
Answer this question yes or no. Is your podcast of the highest quality possible?
Yes, I believe that is true.
Repeat after me.
Okay.
My podcast does not meet the quality standards put forth by Podnut Media.
My podcast does not meet the standards by Podnut Media.
I will do better at podcasting.
I will do better at podcasting.
Good. You are ready to begin your journey.
Okay. What? Man. That's crazy.
That is...
Gives me chills just listening to that again. The podcaster re-education program was intense. 20 hours on the computer. Of course, you heard my mouse was clicking because I had to click at different points of the screen. They were asking me questions and giving me visual input of like, click here. On this picture, here's a picture of a child, and then another picture would pop up and it would be a dead horse or something insane like that. So I don't want to see this. And the whole experience would just scramble my brain in a way that I've never experienced before. It was truly terrifying. And I told my contact up there. Of course, first thing, try to get in touch with Jeremy. That didn't go anywhere. Haven't heard from this guy in so long because I was worried, concerned. I couldn't sleep. It was just nuts. Luckily, I was able to kind of chill out and feel better. But I emailed and said, "Look, this is disturbing. I didn't feel too good doing this. I don't understand how it was supposed to help me, etc." So she said, "Well, it's a beta test program." I said, okay, great. That's their excuse. It's some kind of beta testing program. They're trying it out. They're testing it out. So I'm thinking like, okay, Podnut Media here. I'm a freaking guinea pig to these people. I didn't like that. I'm not a guinea pig. I'm a human being, and I have feelings too. But I guess over there, Christopher Schmidt doesn't think so. He thinks I'm just a cog in the wheel. Oh, I'm just getting frustrated even thinking about it. But I wanted to be honest with the patrons. So let's get to the next thing, all right? So when I recorded the podcast, I knew I was going to be censored. I knew that they didn't want this information coming out. And they're not going to like that I'm doing this, but they're not going to know. Okay, so we'll get to that. But I'm going to slow down. People are going to get so confused with this. Okay. Okay. So, I knew that they would be censoring me, because that's what they said in the program. They said, we're doing this algorithm. It's gonna flag things that people say against Podnut Media about Christopher Schmidt Enterprises, and anyone that is involved. Basically, they would have this content filter that would filter out things that they didn't like to be said. Which, that doesn't sound too crazy. Sounds like the way things are going now. YouTube and all these Twitch, they're all censoring people. Social media platforms, that's all they want to do is censor you. But so I thought I would test it out. I thought I would say some stuff to see if I could see the algorithms in action. So if you'll listen back to the episode, I'm gonna go ahead and pause this episode and go back and listen to the entire other episode, and then you'll get an idea of what I'm talking about. But maybe you remember when they bleeped me out, I was talking about the re-education program. I remember it very vividly when I was doing the podcast talking about that, because some of these memories coming back, it was like flashed like a flash bulb in my face. It was nuts. Like I felt like I was back there. I felt this weird energy surging through me. Truly strange, but I actually compared here's what I'm getting at. So I compared the Podnut Media re-education program. It's similar to that movie, The Clockwork Orange, where they make the guy's eyeballs. Actually, I never seen the movie. I read the book, but they put a thing and make his eyeballs go open, and they show all this crazy stuff. Probably a lot of stuff I was just talking about. And they try to brainwash him. That's pretty much what it felt like. So, but they didn't want me to say that, so they censored that part. So now you know what really happened. So now you're probably wondering, okay, well, he's recording this podcast. He's sending it out here, and yet he's saying that Podnut Media doesn't want him to say this stuff. So how's this stuff getting to me right now on my feed? Well, that's where some crazy stuff is coming into play here. So I've managed to do a little bit of handiwork behind the scenes. Of course, we're talking about education. I've been trying to educate myself on some of the coding stuff. I know Paradox, he does most of the hacking for me, but he sent me some links of some classes I could take. So I've been taking some online classes, learning how to code, learning how to do hacking stuff. So I actually was able to figure out a way to bypass the Nutcast security system. Actually easy, which is kind of crazy to think about. I never knew how to do this stuff, but now it's just coming naturally to me, which is pretty helpful, because I need to get this message to you guys. So basically, the message, the audio that you're listening now has gone through the Nutcast filtering system, and I'm able to load it directly onto the phones, to your phone, the patron, bypassing some of these different codes to get it directly to you, bypassing the filters and everything like that. So the file is actually encrypted as well. So if anyone from Podnut Media comes in, anyone else that's not authorized, who's not a patron, they try to open this file, it'll self-destruct. It'll delete itself, which is pretty handy. So if you're having trouble listening to the episode, anything happens, you want to get an extra copy, just let me know. I'll send you over the files. But for now, it should be secure. If you're listening to it on Nutcast or on your podcast player of choice, we're good. So this is basically a safe space to talk about some of this behind the scenes stuff, because I pretty much can't talk about it on the regular episode. So that's what's going on with me. And as you can tell, this is going to be a really fun episode, because we're just going to talk about some of this creepy stuff. I really had to get the message out to the patrons, because I didn't want people to think like, what's going on there? What's he talking about? This is weird. But I can't talk about it in the regular show. So this is what we've got to do. This is what we have to do, folks. Get ready, strap in. Hopefully we'll figure out something with Podnut Media, because it's getting crazy. It's just getting pretty much weird and strange. Another thing that they told me in the let's see, I've got my notes here. Yeah, so I went through the podcast re-education program. They also said that I can't do the podcast roundup. Well, I can do the podcast roundup, but only if I play Podnut Media podcasts. So also this bonus, we're going to play some clips. We've got a clip of a podcast that is also spreading some interesting information. I'm starting to believe some of the stuff they're saying over there on this particular podcast, but we'll get to that in a minute. Okay. We'll get to that in a minute. So anyways, I went through the podcasting re-education program, the beta test, and all of the voice that you heard, that creepy voice, he was even at the beginning of the episode. Let's see, maybe I have a clip of that. Anyway, he was at the beginning of the episode, talking about how, here it is.
Podcast listeners, this is Christopher Schmidt, CEO of Podnut Media.
That's Christopher Schmidt, allegedly. That's Christopher Schmidt, CEO of Podnut Media. And if you go on the Podnut Media website, you'll find, let's see here, let me go on a Podnut Media website, Podnut Media. Okay, here we go. His bio, he's originally from Australia. He's an Australian billionaire. He's the heir to the Schmidt Enterprises company, which was started by his father, Jack Schmidt. And so they're a company, they pretty much do a little bit of everything, a little bit they started out basically doing mining in Australia. There's a lot of rocks and stuff out there. And they do some oil drilling, they do some nuclear, they do some shipping, they have boats, and they do a little bit of everything over in the Pacific region. They have ties to Asia, and I mean, they're a huge company. So Christopher Schmidt, he is part of the Schmidt Enterprises. He's an heir to the throne. But they won't tell you this. I did a little bit of Googling, a little bit of what's newsing, looking up in the news that Christopher Schmidt actually, he disappeared for a little bit. Or he disappeared. Before he was CEO of Podnut Media, there's actually an article about how he had gone missing for about 2 months. No one had heard of him, and they pretty much had thought he had passed away, which that would be terrible. But in the meantime, his brother actually became the CEO of Schmidt Enterprises. Then all of a sudden, after all this happened, Christopher Schmidt, he comes back. He returns. There's a big press announcement. There's pictures of him waving to the public. He returns as the CEO of Podnut Media. So he's back. He disappeared, but now he's back. He's the CEO. And he's doing the podcasts. A little while after that, of course, he became involved with Samurai Nation Podcast Network. He bought out all kinds of different podcasting networks, and that's how we got bailed out from the Big Jim lawsuit, because Podnut Media, as you remember, they helped pay for some of the legal fees to get the rights to the show. So pretty much the only way we were able to survive was thanks to Podnut Media and Jeremy, his quick thinking. I'd love to get in touch with Jeremy and see what he has to say about all this. He's a pretty savvy guy, but I know he's around, but I haven't been able to talk to him, which I hate that. I want to talk to my friend Jeremy. So anyway, let's get to this podcast. We're going to listen to some of this. This is pretty insane stuff. This is a lot of information for the patrons, but we'll do some more of these. We may have to do it more than once a week. I'm thinking we might do the regular episode, the fake. We're gonna call it the fake episode for Podnut Media, so that they'll think that everything's going great. And then we'll do a little wrap. We'll do a little bonus, cool files, so you'll understand what's really going on. If there's anything we need to explain, I'm hoping that we'll get the wheels moving on this, because I don't know how much more I can handle of this. But anyway, we kind of started getting in trouble initially because we played a clip from that was our friend. Well, he used to be our friend, Samurai Kid. You remember this guy? Oh man, we had a big falling out with Samurai Kid. Things didn't go well. He was pretty much thought we were the worst ever. Jeremy, everyone betrayed him, because as you remember, the Truth Seekers shut down they shut down Samurai Nation Podcast Network because Samurai Kid had allowed the servers, basically the information got out about the Oracle to the Serpent Sons. The Oracle was taking capture, and so the Truth Seekers blamed Samurai Kid, shut down the network. Okay, were y'all following this? I'll try to explain this info. It's hard for me to keep it straight. It's hard for me to keep the red and yellow yarns in place. And I want to hear from the patrons, if you've got the red and yellow if you've got the red and yellow yarns in place, comment down below and say that you've got the red and yellow yarns in place, okay? Because I want to know. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. But anyway, let's listen to this podcast with Samurai Kid. He's got all the right info. Okay, that's what I'm saying.
Good evening, folks. This is Shadow World Live 24/7. I'm your host, Earl Baskins, and I'm here with my old friend, Grubius Grim. How you doing tonight, Double G? Doing good. All right. Tonight, folks, we have a guest on the show. He's called in a few times on the hotline on some previous episodes, but we thought his info was compelling enough that maybe we'd have him on officially as a guest. Let's welcome him on to the show tonight. It's the Samurai Kid. How you doing, Samurai Kid?
Hey, Earl. Wow, this is so awesome to be on your show as a guest.
Well, glad you could be on the show, Samurai Kid. Now, catch us up a little bit on the research you've been doing. I know we talked a little bit last time, but let's catch the folks up with that.
For sure, yeah. So last time, I was going deep into information about Mitchell Head from the Disclosure Hour podcast and about his involvement with the Truth Seekers. As you know, my whole life was upended by the Truth Seekers because, as they claim, I had leaked some info about the Oracle to the Serpent Sons, which then led to him being captured, according to them. Of course, him being Mitchell Head.
Right.
The Oracle, right? So, but now...
Whoa. Hold on, my sound was all messed up. Something weird's going on with their music there. Did you catch that? Does anyone catch that? All right, Samurai Kid, he's over here saying that the Oracle was Mitchell Head from Disclosure Hour podcast. I don't even know if we can get through this whole thing. If you remember Disclosure Hour podcast, it was featured on our first episode. We may have to come back and revisit some of these things. Just want to play a clip because I need to refresh myself about that. I think it was on the second episode. Wow, I really should have loaded this up ahead of time. I know people want to hear the Shadow World, but I got to hear my friend Mitchell Head to figure out what he's up to. I think it was the second episode. See if we can.
Truth is always abundant.
Okay, that's this is I don't know where it is in this episode. It says about any of the stuff. It's just neat to look at. So go check that out. And let's see if we can just read one real quick. Okay, that's me talking. I'm trying to find the clip of Disclosure Hour I think it was the first
With that.
episode. Okay.
Advanced immunity to this stuff, you know. I haven't
And that's
gotten it, so-
Kreb from then that's Jack from the Kreb and Jack show. People, maybe they're on a network. I'm not really sure since they left. Man, it's been an RSS feed loaded up in your podcast app of choice. It's kind of interesting going back and listening to some of these. Those were the good old days, huh? Back when we didn't have to worry about this stuff. It's insane. Maybe I have a different. I think I've downloaded some of these episodes of Disclosure Hour. I don't know. Probably would have been good to load this up ahead of time, but I'm gonna find it. I think it's on episode 1. Anyway, let's see what Samurai Kid is saying. I'll see if I can find this in the meantime.
There's some new person claiming to be the Oracle, and no one has heard at all from Mitchell Head.
Right, so do you got any updates on that at all?
Well, yeah, sort of. Actually, my research has been leading me down a lot
What's
of
going on
different
with the
paths
music?
lately, and frankly, it's hard to keep track of the stuff in my head. But luckily, Samurai Nation has been on board with what I'm doing, which is really great. We even have a subreddit now dedicated to it, all the conspiracy stuff, called the Shogun Army, and the Shoguns have been backing up my info with some really interesting posts that prove a lot of the stuff that I've been talking about.
That's cool, man. I'll have to check it out. So what's the latest news?
Okay, so like I said, I've been pretty much solely focused on the Truth Seekers, really trying to figure out who is behind them, especially with this new person who claims to be the Oracle. I mean, for all I know, they could have just hired this guy with the wizard voice off of Fiverr or something. I mean, who knows?
Right. Well, let me stop you there. Ask you a question. Maybe they do have someone doing the voice for the Oracle, so that they don't reveal his true identity,
Now that's a good point from Earl there. I'm going to try to break down some of this conversation because there's a lot of info to get through. So he's talking about the Oracle, right? Do you remember this guy? I couldn't find that clip of Mitchell Head, but Disclosure Hour. See if I can. It's back on episode 1, episode 2. It was so long ago. Anyway, here it is. Here's.
Greetings, Truth Seekers. This is the Disclosure Hour podcast. I'm your host, Mitchell Head. Today's episode, we are going to continue uncovering what I believe is one of the biggest cover-ups in human history.
That's it. That's Disclosure Hour podcast. Mitchell Head, and he even said at the beginning of the podcast, "Greeting Truth Seekers." What? So it's all right. It was all right there in front of us the whole time. Mitchell Head, the Truth Seekers, we're starting to make sense. I think we can confirm now that Mitchell Head was involved in some way with the Truth Seekers. So anyway, I wanted to play a clip of the new Oracle. Okay? This is the guy who called me on the show saying that he's the Oracle. I didn't believe this for a minute because he didn't even sound like Mitchell Head, who I knew was the Oracle. Okay, let's go back here. Okay, let's be honest. I don't know if anyone picked up on that. They were all Serpent's sons were trying to find information about Mitchell Head from my computer. For me, they had all traced it back to me, that I knew all about this guy. He was my friend because he helped me figure out that Zoom Dragon and Mr. Rude Guy were freaking hacking me. Okay, Mitchell Head was the one who told us all about it. So they knew I had some info on this guy. They were coming after me on my laptop, and that's where Big Jim come from. Big Jim sued me. Serpent's sons were funneling money through Basilisk Enterprises. They were funneling money pay for his lawyers. Then all they wanted was the laptop that had info about Mitchell Head. Oh my gosh. Does this make any sense for anybody? I've connected the yarns for you, okay? But if you've connected the yarns, I would really love to know if anyone's following this at all. Anyway, the Oracle, he called me. Here's what he sounds like. This is the fake Oracle.
Greetings, Beowulf. It is I, the Oracle.
That's not the Oracle. What the hell? It's not Mitchell Head. That's some guy that sounds like a damn wizard. So I was very confused when the Oracle called in on whatever episode that was. Can't even keep this stuff straight anymore. It's nuts. It was one of these episodes where the Oracle called in. Remember? Anyone remember and know what I'm talking about? It was episode 47. Go back and listen to it. You'll remember the Oracle called in. But it wasn't the real guy, and I was confused, but I didn't really know what to say. I was scared. So we had to be friends with the Oracle. We also have to be afraid of these guys. I don't know what they're up to, because they're on the network now, okay? They're on Podnut Media, and I helped bring them in. So this is all my responsibility. I'm freaking got my hands in all this. I've screwed everything up. Okay, let's listen to the Shadow World.
Since Mitchell Head has the podcast, people might be able to recognize the voice.
Earl, that is a great point. But the thing is, this new guy with the wizard voice claiming to be the Oracle, he's everywhere. He's all over the place representing the Truth Seekers. Like, they have a YouTube, they have videos and photos of this guy going out talking to people, spreading the word of the Truth Seekers. I mean, he really is the new face of this organization. And like I was saying, with the chat logs from the original forum, we can confirm that those initial posts who talked about some of these things, who called himself the Oracle, I'm sorry, just messed up my words, those posts were tied to Mitchell Head and the Disclosure Hour blog. Here, I've got this hard drive that has all the information I can send you. Send it in the mail, like overnight it, if you want to check the stuff out.
Yeah, that's fine. I believe you, man. I'm just trying to ask questions here,
Right. I totally get it. Well, anyway, the latest Truth Seekers news is that they have officially partnered with Podnut Media to release a new series of podcasts. My understanding is that the podcast will mostly be featuring some of the Oracle's predictions for the future, as well as testimonials from different members of the group and why they love being Truth Seekers. Basically, Earl, this is just cult propaganda 101, They're desperately seeking new members and new sources of revenue, and frankly, it's disgusting. I mean, I feel for these people who have been brainwashed by these freaking fraudsters.
Oh man, that is terrible. So let's go back then. What is...
So you following that there? Are you following? Because here I thought Samurai Kid was off his rocker and that he was getting into conspiracies. On the last time he was talking about this stuff, we played the clip from his show. Let's see. He was talking about Mitchell Head, talking all about them, talking about the Truth Seekers. So his theory, and I thought this was crazy, I thought he was nuts, but the more I looked into it, the more I looked into some info, I was actually getting some emails from these guys, the guys and gals and everywhere in between, the Shogun Army. I think I even retweeted them because I was like confused, like what the heck? Who are these people? Well, it's the Shogun Army. They sent me some info, and I'm convinced that Samurai Kid is totally right. He's finding out about this stuff. He knows more than me. So anyway, I've got the transcript from the last time the Samurai Kid was on here, and I'm trying to connect the yarns for you. Okay, so bear with me here. Who is Christopher Schmidt? That's one thing they were talking about. Wait. This stuff is nuts. This is crazy stuff. So they're talking about Zoom Dragon. There's so many episodes of the Shadow World. It's a weird podcast about conspiracies, and a lot of this stuff is crazy, but for some reason, we're involved directly in with this conspiracy, so it all makes sense. So anyway, he was saying there's a shadow war, of course. Mitchell Head was in over his head, which is a pretty good pun. I don't think he intended that one. The Truth Seekers were claiming they were fighting against the Zoom Dragon, right? This is a Zoom Dragon. Truth Seekers. The Oracle was on the forum years ago, however many years ago. Started on the internet forum. It was a normal forum talking about aliens. And then an account called The Oracle started up, posting information about Zoom Dragon. This is from the transcript. This is from the last time Samurai Kid was on the Shadow World. So he's basically saying that the Oracle account that was on the Truth Seekers forum, this is all Mitchell Head, because he was the one who, if you'll remember...
Our focus this last year has been the shadowy cabal of companies who claim to sell cheap technology and gadgets on the internet. The ringleader goes by the name of Jackie Mondragon. As you know, I believe that she is the leader of a race of reptilians living on planet Earth. The companies she claims to run include Zoom Dragon, DragTech, Shadow Orc, and Dragon Dust. Mrs. Mondragon uses these companies to cover up
I forgot about the
operations
other companies.
funneling alien technology to global governments. At this time, Zoom...
So, Mitchell Head, this is from Disclosure Hour podcast, which you can't even find the episodes. This has all been scrubbed. So we're lucky that Shogun Army has got copies and chat logs of all this stuff, because they don't want you to know this information anymore. Basically, Mitchell Head was the one on the forefront telling us about Zoom Dragon, about their selling technology, alien technology, reptilian stuff, and that they were actually the ones behind taking my Twitch stream, if you remember that. That was from like a year ago. And Mitchell Head really helped us out a lot getting this information. He was even the one who found out that Mr. Rude Guy had been working with Anonymous. And it's just a twisted web of crap that you can't even believe. And I can't believe it's getting even more twisted and insane. And I just want out. I want out of the web. I want to get back to normal. But anyway, Mitchell Head was the one who hypothesized as well that when the virus came out, the big outbreak, that was in March 2020, around when it came around here, he initially had theorized and had predicted that the governments were going to release this weapon against the reptilians, which ended up being this virus, and it got out of control, and it got crazy, and of course it's done all this terrible stuff. But it was all to basically combat the reptilians, to combat Zoom Dragon, get them out of here, and it worked. As far as we know, Jackie Mondragon's dead. All right, I hate to say it, but Jackie Mondragon is actually an alias for a reptilian, so don't worry about that too much. It's fine. We don't like the reptilians, so it's fine if they get murked or whatever, however you want to say it. So anyway, this is all just to say that I'm glad I can finally come out and say this stuff, because I feel like I've been bouncing off the walls. I've been trapped inside of my own head trying to figure out what's going on, and now that's part of the why of why we're doing the cool files, everybody, because I've got to talk about this stuff, and I have to say it on the record. I'm tired of just hinting at and saying, Oracle, he's kind of weird, right? No, this is bad. Okay? So I really hope we can figure out what happened to Mitchell Head. Where is this guy? Oh, let's listen to some more of this. I don't know if we can hear the whole thing, but we'll play some more stuff from
Podnut Media, exactly. And how are they connected to this? I mean, why are the Truth Seekers on that network, Podnut Media specifically?
Well, first, the obvious thing would be that with Nutcast, their proprietary app, that the podcasters on that platform, they're able to reach millions and millions of listeners. I mean, this is a very powerful network of podcasters and influencers that they could tap into, and they can reach millions of people, the Truth Seekers. I mean, if they want to recruit some high-profile people, this would be the way to do it. But yeah, the more I looked into Podnut Media, I really started to wonder how even they started up, right? So I used to own a podcast network. It was called the Samurai Nation Podcast Network. And we had actually been bought out by Podnut Media kind of towards the end. At first, it was pretty awesome. The arrangement we had, a lot of infrastructure taken care of, some IT, and everything was like amazing. But then I started to suspect something kind of weird was going on. This is about around the time that I first learned about the Serpent Sons, actually. I kind of felt like my eyes had been opened to this whole new reality, you know?
Oh, I totally get that. That happened to me way back in the 70s.
That's awesome.
Oh, this is a crazy interview. So what were they talking about here? Let's see if I can... I've got the transcript of everything. Oh, so he's trying to figure out what's going on with the truth seekers. Okay, yeah, so this is all coming back to me that I got that message from the Oracle, and I thought, if I'm going to stay in the good graces of Podnut Media, I've got to help the truth seekers get on the network. And I didn't think they were bad guys. I thought they were a little, they were a little iffy. But in the fight between good and evil, who you going to pick? Serpent Sons? You going to pick truth seekers? So I think it's pretty obvious. I didn't know what was happening, but according to Samurai Kid, he's claiming that the truth seekers are actually a weird and crazy cult, which is not a good thing. They're going to have a podcast predicting the Oracle's predictions, and it's basically a recruiting propaganda thing for the truth seekers to be on Podnut Media. So that's upsetting. That's concerning, because that's all that comes back to me. Like, I was the one who helped them at least get their foot in the door. I don't know. Just try not to blame myself too much for this stuff, because they're a pretty powerful group anyway, so they probably would have done it. But I mean, I'm sure it helped to have me in there saying, "Hey, truth seekers, they're cool. Let them on the network, whatever." I mean, I don't know if they listen to me anyways, but Nutcast, of course, reaches all kinds of listeners out there. So anyway, Samurai Kid, he's talking about the network. Of course, we remember that they were bought out by Podnut Media. That's how I was able to pay for the court case against Big Jim, thanks to Podnut Media. So all stuff was good with Samurai Kid. So I'm just trying to recap here what's going on, because for some reason in this podcast the sound is like insane. So I'm trying to recap what they're talking about. It's hard to parse, and that's why we're doing the cool files. We're doing the cool files so that people will know, they'll understand the stories, and they'll understand some of the subtext of what's going on. It's a podcast within a podcast. As if it already wasn't enough to do one podcast, now we're doing two.
Anyway, yeah, so I thought, man, this stuff is really wild, and I started to question some things about Podnut Media. It started pretty much when I was having these meetings with the CEO. His name is Christopher Schmidt. At first, he seemed like this really great guy. He was really knowledgeable about entrepreneurship and business, and I thought he would be a great guy to learn some stuff from. But then it started to get kind of weird. Obviously, we could only meet through video chat because of COVID, and also he's in Australia, so there was that too. But I started to notice his voice was sounding more and more robotic, like the things he was saying were just too perfect, and like his video stream would glitch out in these really weird ways and the audio would sort of do this weird thing when he was talking, and it just didn't seem quite right. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean, so.
And I know what they mean too, because Christopher Schmidt was doing the mind freak on me with this re-education program. So I know exactly what they're talking about. I know something's up with this guy. And like I said, I found out that he had disappeared or something, and they'll probably talk about that too. They'll probably talk about
this
coming
was
up.
Another thing that sent you down a rabbit hole. I guess you kind of were trying to figure out something about this guy after that.
Exactly, Earl. I started doing my research, and it turns out Christopher Schmidt, he's the son of a billionaire mining baron from Australia named Jack Schmidt. Christopher was supposed to inherit the whole business, millions and billions of dollars, but then he completely disappeared. So a lot of people thought that maybe he had died or he had been kidnapped or something, but then all of a sudden he reappears as the head and the CEO of this podcast media company. Of course, people didn't really think too much of it because there were quite a few siblings of his that were interested in inheriting the wealth of his father, including his older brother. So the older brother stepped in to be the CEO, and Christopher went to go do this podcasting thing. So really, it just seemed like something that a normal son of a billionaire might do.
Okay.
Son of a beep. So that's all stuff that I said towards the beginning, stuff that I figured out too. That's why I was starting to believe what Samurai Kid was saying, because the stuff that I was looking at, Googling, just through Google, wasn't even doing anything crazy. Now I find out with the Shogun Army sending me messages and screen caps, and then I'm listening to this podcast of Samurai Kid, all of a sudden, everything's starting to make sense. A couple more yarns are getting connected. A couple more red and yellow yarns. Like I said, if you're out there listening to the Cool Files today, the patron, and if your yarns are getting connected, we'd love to know if any of this is helping you understand what's going on, because we just want to get the, well, I'm not going to say we're going to get the truth out there. Obviously, the truth has a stigma to it because it's damn truth seekers. We want to get the word out there of what's really going on behind the scenes. Okay. Let's see if we can finish this up. It's kind of long, but we really need to get the info out. So let's see what else is going on.
Okay, so that doesn't sound too weird. So what do you think happened here? What do you think is going on?
So that's kind of what I'm researching right now, is basically going into some of the history of Schmidt Enterprises and looking at their receipts, and I'm trying to look at different things that they were involved with. So what I've gathered so far is that Schmidt Enterprises actually was in possession of technology that has been linked to Zoom Dragon.
What?
Specifically, it was these like high-powered laser devices, and they were going to use those to help with their mining operations across the world.
Whoa, oh my goodness, that's crazy, man.
Yes, it is totally nuts. And also, I was able to dig up and do some research, and I found these old red carpet photos from this event in Shanghai with all these other tech billionaires. It was back in October of 2019. Here, let me pull it up and show it to you.
Oh, what the frick? Oh my goodness.
What is this picture?
Yeah. That's Jackie Mondragon and Christopher Schmidt outside of this big red carpet event.
What the frick? Wait a second. Jackie Mondragon, freaking Zoom Dragon, and Christopher Schmidt were hanging out together. He's the CEO of Podnet Media. He is now. Oh my goodness, that is bad. That is really bad. They had connected and they were using technology from Zoom Dragon. So does that mean Podnet Media is part of Zoom Dragon? I'm confused. I hope that's not the case. Then we'll really be screwed.
These billionaires. Actually, the lady standing off to the side, kind of in the shadow, that was Jackie Mondragon's top assistant. As I'm told that she goes by the name the Queen Snake. There's some rumors that she is actually the one orchestrating the militant wing of the Serpent Sons.
Whoa, so you think Zoom Dragon maybe got to this guy, but what are the truth seekers doing in all this?
Earl, that's exactly what I'm trying to get to the bottom of right now. I've got some members of the Shogun Army that are doing some hacking. They're trying to dig up some archive codes from the hard drive servers from the Samurai Nation podcast network that I was part of. They think that maybe something in the Quick Viper codes, there's some kind of hidden signature that could help us link the Truth Seekers, the Serpent Sons, and Podnet Media.
Oh my goodness.
But we still have a lot of work to do.
Man, this is really starting to sound kind of dangerous, Samurai Kid. You better watch out, man, for real.
Yeah, I know. Luckily, I'm safe right now, and I've actually been practicing martial arts and doing CrossFit, so I'm ready for whatever they want to throw at me. But yeah, if you don't hear from me in the next few weeks, something might have gone down, okay?
Dang, well, be safe out there, man. We'll talk to you later.
Alright, thanks, Earl. Thanks for having me on your show, and keep slicing and dicing, and shout out to Samurai Nation.
Holy moly. Man, I don't even know what to think about this stuff anymore.
That is crazy. Oh my word.
So, there's a connection between Christopher Schmidt, CEO of Podnet Media, and Zoom Dragon, but this is before the big thing, right? Zoom Dragon's no more. Zoom Dragon doesn't exist. It's Serpent Sons now, right? They're basically terrorist guys. And from what I gather, they're not as advanced. But they do have this person, the Queen Snake, who's helping spearhead some of this stuff, I think. And so, what was I getting at? Well, frankly, I'm flabbergasted because he's trying to connect Podnut, Truth Seekers, and Serpent Sun Zoom Dragon / together, which is crazy to me because Truth Seekers, well, they're basically, they were the good guys. They're fighting against the Serpent Sons. But they did somehow get into the Quick Viper. I remember this. You might remember this. They did somehow get into the servers. And they were able to get into the Quick Viper software. So that is kind of weird. Maybe there is a connection. And also, I remember from the last episode of Shadow Talk with Samurai Kid, basically he also has said, he didn't say it in this episode, but he said that the big attack in Ukraine, which our friend Mr. Rude Guy was involved in, he was a victim. He was captured. And Mitchell Head, I think, was also captured. He claims that it was some kind of false flag, which is a big claim. So he's thinking that maybe Truth Seekers and Serpent Sons are like friends or something? I don't know. I find that hard to believe. But we know that Mitchell Head is not involved, so maybe it's taken a turn. It's taken some kind of turn. A turn for the worst, I would say. And we also don't really know much about Podnut Media. Christopher Schmidt, what are they doing in all this? That's what I'm hoping to figure out. I've actually got an intern. He used to work for Podnut Media. I won't say who it is. That would be bad. We've been corresponding back and forth, and we're going to do a little interview on the next Cool Files, and I think they've got some bombshell stuff that's hopefully going to blow the lid off of this thing. Some behind the scenes info about Podnut Media, Christopher Schmidt, just someone that's a little bit more involved. Because me, I'm way out here in terms of like, if we're talking about solar system, this person I'm talking to is probably in the range of like the Earth or Venus in terms of like Christopher Schmidt. He's the sun. This person I'm talking to involved, they're probably in the range of Venus, Mars, Earth. Me, I basically am out. I am an asteroid that is so freaking far away. I'm not even going to get close. I'm skimming past the Milky Way. That's how far I am involved in these people. So there's no way I can get any information. I got to get a whistleblower involved. And that's what we got a whistleblower. It's going to come on the next Cool Files. So that'll be cool. But to end the show, I hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Cool Files, but I've got something huge. This is big. This is big stuff. I was waiting to play this. People are going to be really surprised when they hear this. I haven't listened to it yet. I was saving it for the first episode of the Cool Files. This technically is a bonus episode. Oh, Lord. Anyway, haven't heard from this guy in a while. This person has a new podcast. And we haven't heard from him in a while, and haven't listened to this yet, but I figured this would probably also get a shadow ban. Plus, we can't play podcasts that aren't Podnut Media on the regular show, so we're going to have to play those on the Cool Files. All right, we're keeping this straight. Okay, so here we go. Here's the trailer. No spoilers. Here it is. What's up, everybody? It's Mr. Root Guy here, coming at you with my new podcast. That's right, guys. I have a new freaking podcast. This is awesome. So my new podcast is going to be called The Rudecast. I haven't actually recorded any episodes yet, but I have a really good idea for it, and you guys are really going to love this. So, I've been through a lot of crazy stuff in my life, and I've thankfully come out the other side unscathed, pretty much. And now I'm in a really good place where I can talk about it now and really share my story, my whole backstory from the very beginning, and tell you kind of how I ended up here. So it's going to be a little bit more of like an introspective style of podcast, where I'm going to be doing like interviews and stuff and talking to different people that I know here where I am now. We're going to have some really cool guests, and we're going to reveal a lot about each other through some of our conversations. It's going to be really cool. So actually, I'll just go ahead and say who my first guest is going to be. This guy has been in the news a little bit. He's a really cool guy. He's actually my roommate, and he has a lot of crazy info. He's telling me all of this stuff all the time, and I'm like, man, you have to get out there and tell your story, okay? So my first guest on the podcast, he's going to be my good friend, Mitchell Head. He used to host a podcast called Disclosure Hour, and he was getting into a lot of stuff about what the bleep? I'm actually going to cuss. That's what? Wait, hold on a second. Oh, man. I can't just let that go by. Mitchell Head and Mr. Rude Guy are friends? Holy crap. Oh, this is amazing. So Mr. Rude Guy is going to interview Mitchell Head, and maybe we'll finally get some information about what the hell's going on. We need to figure out this Mitchell Head. He's the key. He's gonna give us more information probably about the Serpent Sons and what happened to Zoom Dragon. But just to know that he's even alive that's great news. And also to hear from Mr. Rude Guy. Man, we haven't heard from him in so long. Probably since the last time when he was captured. And he hasn't talked to me or anything, but it's good that he's doing a podcast. So, man, wow, this is insane.
That is.
So the first episode of the Rude Cast is going to have Mitchell Head on there. That's big stuff. Okay. Let's see what else he's got. Aliens and like Zoom Dragon, and of course, like you guys know, I have a whole backstory with these guys. So I think I can kind of relate to sort of where he's coming from. And plus, since we were like involved in that crazy terrorist attack with the Serpent Sons, like we were actually in like a box together for like a couple of weeks being like tortured and stuff. Not to like give everything away to you guys, but just to like entice you a little bit to listen to the podcast. We're going to talk some about that stuff, about Zoom Dragon, and just kind of like where he's coming from, where he's been, and what the frick is going on with both of us pretty much. And we're going to talk about some projects and stuff that we're working on, and it's going to be freaking awesome. So anyway, thanks guys for checking it out. We're going to have that podcast up in a couple weeks once we record it, but I just thought I would send this trailer out for you guys out and get freaking pumped as me about this stuff. All right, so shout out to the Rude crew, and we will see you guys later. Whoa, that's nuts.
That is crazy. Oh my word.
So Mr. Rude Guy is gonna be talking to Mitchell Head. I gotta send him some questions, something, say, hey, please ask him about the Truth Seekers. I'm sure they're gonna talk about it. That'll be on the next Cool Files, because I can't play it on the regular. I'll get in big trouble. But we'll have a regular podcast too. We'll figure it out. It's just nuts. You know what? I'm sorry. Sorry to the patrons that you have to go through this. You got 2 different podcasts. You got conspiracies. At some point, we're going to do a regular, normal show, and everything's going to be normal. But for now, we're going to have to sign out. And thanks for listening to the Cool Files.